Do you see more people that have bought a bike that's too large for them or too small for them?
Who fits the bike fitter?
Oh.
Okay.
Do I need to go back and have like a checkup?
It's a pretty touchy one.
How well it transfers to other bikes.
Integrated cable routing for fitting. Is it a move by big brake fitting to sell more brake fittings or?
Shoot. You know what? I'm gonna say
Carla, thank you for coming on the podcast.
hello. Thanks for having me.
How would you identify yourself? Are you, when it comes to the cycling world?
Okay.
Because otherwise, that's way too big of a question.
Right.
I first met you through bike fitting, and then you've also been like my mountain bike guide, which that video is not out yet, but it'll be coming out soon. Do you identify more with like the bike fit side, the mountain bike side, a completely different side of cycling?
Ooh, that's a good question. Wow, that's actually a good question. I think I would identify myself more as like an overall enjoyer of cycling.
Okay.
I have my days where I'm like really hyper focused on road, and then I have my days where I like just really want to be out on the dirt. There are months where it's like really busy, and so that's all I have. That's all I really do. And then there are months like the winter time where it's like super slow, and so I'm more on the floor and thinking about, like what I'm going to do with the client when they finally come in. But yeah, I'd say I'm more a general cyclist.
It's a very even answer. You're not going to offend anybody out there with that answer.
I can do it right now, actually.
Okay, perfect.
Gravel is fake. I hate gravel cycling.
Why? Actually, let me turn off the fan first because I forgot to turn this off. We were talking about ADHD right before we started. That was the whole time you're talking. I'm like, don't forget the fan. Don't forget the fan.
I totally forgot the fan.
Gravel cycling is not real.
Okay, let me rephrase that. I think gravel cycling is like, I don't know. I like my bikes to be able to do something really specifically really well. And so when it comes down to like gravel bikes, to me it's always been a bike that does two things not that well. Like it depends on who's riding it, but like for the most part it's like, okay, this bike can sort of do dirt and it can sort of do road, but it's not spectacularly fast on road, and it is going to come up on some limitations on dirt. So I want my bike to be able to do what it's meant to do really, really well. So I want a fast road bike and I want a very capable mountain bike. That's my hot take.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I fall in line. You converted me to that thinking, actually. I had a gravel bike for a bit. I don't have one right now. I have a road bike. And I'm like, do I get a gravel bike or do I get a mountain bike? And I'm leaning towards the mountain bike. The only issue is, and this is YouTuber problems, I don't have a mountain bike sponsor, so I'll have to pay my own money for it. But that's how far I'm like, yeah, maybe it is worth it. So I don't know.
I have ridden gravel bikes, and I do think that they have I do think that they're fun. It's just that with the type of riding I like to do, and the amount of space that I have, like, I think I'm lucky enough. I do live in a house and I do have a yard and stuff like that, which is nice, but that doesn't mean that I can afford a bike that I don't think I'm going to ride. So to all of you gravel riders out there, I'm not sorry.
Nice. Why do you think gravel's so popular then?
Well, I do think that the tire clearance is actually like a really big selling point. Like there are going to be people who are just starting who those skinny tires on road bikes, and they've gotten wider. Like I have 30s on my road bike, and I ride gravel on my road bike sometimes. But yeah, that wider tire clearance, you start with like a 38 or a 42 and it's like really comfortable and you feel a lot more confident. So, if you can afford that like entry level, decently, spec'd gravel bike, that's going to be a good bike to start with. Again, if you're trying to do anything more specific with it, like if you're trying to race or if you're like trying to do single track or like more technical stuff, it is going to come on its limits. That's the thing though. But it is a good place to start if you're like really new and you don't know really what you want to do yet and you want to be comfortable. I do think that's a good place for it.
Yeah, my first bike was a gravel bike, and then I kind of realized I was riding on the road more than I was riding on the dirt. And so I just ended up getting a road bike. And the appeal that I hear, or the argument from gravel, that transition phase, going from, especially here in LA, because we have a lot of like gravel trails you can do, you just have to bike to them, but you can be there in like half hour, an hour, depending on where you live. It's a lot easier to do that like commute part of the ride on a gravel bike. But then when you're at the trail, you're suffering because you're at, so it's like, do you want to suffer on the commute to the place, or do you want to suffer during the ride? Or you can just, use a car. I did finally get a trailer hitch for our car. So that should solve that problem for me.
Great success.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Again, it's a good, I don't think it's like a bad platform. I just don't, for like what it's advertised as being, I don't really, not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I'll move away from gravel now for the listeners and viewers who I'm guessing I'm going to label this something about bike fitting. And so they're probably wondering, why are we talking about gravel? Let's jump into some listener questions really quick, if you're ready.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll talk more about gravel later. If this is your first time listening or watching the podcast, the way it works is you call in, leave a question, and then we call you back and answer your question live. Here's our first question.
How many bikes is too many bikes to get a bike fit? And how to show up in the proper etiquette for a bike fit?
How many bikes is too many bikes?
Hello?
Hi, you called into the How to Drop Your Friends podcast. This is Mitch. I'm here with Carla. You asked her a question.
No, I want to switch it up on you.
Oh, okay.
I wanna keep you guys on your toes. My question is, who fits the bike fitter?
Oh, okay.
And
It's a good one.
And is this like a never-ending loophole of like the bike fitter finding another person to fit their bike? Is this like some sort of like pyramid thing?
Oh, I love it. Bike fit recursion going on.
So, okay, who fits the bike fitter? In a lot of cases, I would say that a lot of us try and just do it ourselves. Like we'll try and like use previous fit measurements that we've had from other bikes to connect it on there. But in a lot of cases, once that doesn't work, in my case, I asked my coworker at work because he was a bike fitter for like 10 years and he's our supervisor now. So Abe, I'll usually ask Abe or I'll ask my boyfriend, but so one of those two people is usually who I go to.
Who did your first bike fit, Carla?
My first bike fit was done when I went to fit school. So it was another fellow classmate. Basically, we were each other's first fits. And he set me up. And what you find out is that like sometimes the tech doesn't always translate over. And so that's why the human touch comes in. Because the way that the bike had been set up was like about probably like 5 millimeters too low for how it was supposed to be. And it was just because like the signals got crossed and how it actually measured out wasn't exactly how it was supposed to be. So always double check your numbers.
So there's just like a never-ending list of bike fitters, bike fitting people. That's insane.
It is a pyramid scheme. I think we've come on to something.
That's very impressive.
Well, the fee for one another is usually like a case of beer or like a bottle of alcohol. So I don't know. I feel like we're not really like making the most out of this pyramid scheme we're trying to run.
I know. Yeah, it's not run very well if you're just getting a case of beer or something. Well, I am still curious on the original question. How many bikes is too many for a bike fit?
Yeah.
I don't think there's like a limit on it. So usually when client comes in, they will ask me like, oh, can I use this fit for my other bikes? And my question is always a bit of a sort of, because if you are riding your road bike and it's got, and it's a super aero road bike, that means that the seat tube angles are probably really aggressive. So it's probably really forward. But then when you get it on your gravel bike, which is going to be probably a lot more slack, more relaxed, those measurements might not completely translate over. So there's usually some tweaks that need to happen. And then if you're trying to come in with like a mountain bike using your road measurements, this is probably just not going to work at all. It's such a different setup.
Yeah.
There's the real pyramid scheme. You can't go just for one bike. You got to get each bike fitted.
Well,
And
yeah,
then-
it's essential.
Exactly. And if you're like Carla, you work at a
Yeah.
bike shop. So then, you get another bike, you got to go. I
have sold a couple bikes doing that.
There you go.
Yeah, I think I've got a record of bike fits in 1 year with Carla.
Yeah, this is
And
Jose.
each one was very different. Full suspension mountain bike, a hardtail, and a road bike. I mean, I was kind of cheating using the same shoes on every one. So I was kind of suffering in some points. Like I felt like my position was way different on the cleats on my cross country bike when I got onto my road bike. But that's just because I was being cheap. I didn't want to buy road shoes,
Wait, are you riding your cross country mountain bike with road shoes?
No, I wasn't. I was just using SPD pedals on every bike. And I only had like 2 pairs of shoes. So
I did qualify with him. I'm just like, this is going to be like probably a lot different.
yeah, I didn't think it was going to be that crazy, but after spending a lot of hours on each one, yeah, there's a difference.
How many bike fits did you do in a year, Jose? You said you might have the record.
4.
4.
Yeah, 4.
I
Yeah.
forgot.
Wow. Thanks for calling in, Jose.
Don't worry. Thank you guys so much.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
See you, man. Bye. 4 fits in a year.
Yeah, they were all very different. He had like this huge like touring hardtail that was it was super cool, but it was like, it was incredibly different to like the scalpel that he brought in later. And yeah, he had like a Super 6, and yeah, but I always appreciate when people come back. I mean, it means I'm doing something right. So yeah. So always appreciate a returning customer.
How did you learn? You mentioned while we were talking with him about the art between like the numbers might not always be right on whatever tool you're using. How did you like learn when to identify, oh, this actually needs to be adjusted a little bit?
So sometimes when we do a fit, it's how we did yours. We use the Move bike, which is this machine basically that you can plug in reach and stack height and setback to create like the starting setup of a bike you might be interested in. And so in my early years of doing fits on the Move bike, I would notice that like I was scanning and I'd get these numbers and it's like, okay, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. And I would just take a measuring tape out and measure it just good old fashioned way. It's like, okay. And there's a lot going on during a fit. There's a lot of like machines out. There's the harnesses, there's the Zen tool, there's the tower itself. And then on top of that, you're in a bike shop where there's lots of Bluetooth and ANT plus signals getting sent out from bikes, from people's computers, from people's phones. So there's a lot going on. So sometimes, you take the measurement and sometimes it's just not right. Like you might have just hit something incorrectly. So if I notice that, I usually will just go back and do it again. And then once I do it again, usually corrects for itself. But it is important to just double check those things.
I'm always worried to ask questions between calls because I'm like, I'm going to ask a question. Somebody else will ask a question. So this might come up again. But what's like a common issue you see for people coming in with a bike fit? Like what's the most glaring mistake you usually see?
Honestly, it's what they wear.
Okay.
They don't bring in the proper attire. A lot of people come in with bib shorts, which is appreciated, and their shoes, which is what I need. But they'll come in wearing a t-shirt. And it's a huge pet peeve of mine. Honestly, I don't make a big deal about it during fits. The problem with coming in with that loose fitting clothing is that I put these adhesive markers on everybody's body on like these 8 points. So if the clothing is loose, I have to take special care for its movement while I'm looking at my numbers. So, for example, because people commonly come in wearing like a t-shirt, the t-shirt isn't usually fit to their shoulder. Mm-hmm. So I put the shoulder marker on, it's in the right place, turn them around, put them on the other side. But then as soon as they start moving, the shoulder marker moves down or it moves behind them. And so then I have to take special care to replace it, make sure that the numbers that I saw are still like viable, mm-hmm. And then take into account that they the reason why they might look that way is because the marker might have moved in several places.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
No. The other thing that a lot of people do is like what's worse than wearing a t-shirt to me is wearing long sleeves.
Okay.
The reason for that is, again, it's because of the marker placement. So usually if you're wearing a short sleeve jersey, I can put the marker on the elbow exactly where it needs to be. But if you're wearing a jersey, I'll be able to find it. But again, fabric moves. So as soon as you like start moving, I have people get on and off to make adjustments. So they move, the fabric moves with them. And so like the marker's no longer in the right place. So I have to, again, take into account that. So now I have to take into account the elbow and the shoulder because they're both covered. And then I have to usually roll their wrists up so that I can get to the proper, like the dorsum, which is the wrist marker here. So,
do you ever just want to like nail the markers into the person?
No, I'm not trying to deal with that later. I have had to have people buy clothes in store.
Oh, there we go. See, we're uncovering all the conspiracies now.
It's, I'm so sorry to those people. I usually get them set up on nice clothes and usually try and get them on like sale clothes. But I've had someone show up with like shorts and like a t-shirt and like no shoes.
Oh, wow.
So we've had to do the whole shopping trip the day that they came in. So we had to go buy shoes, socks, bibs, and jersey.
Wow.
Which I never mind helping people with, but it does mean it takes like an extra like 20 or 30 minutes.
What's your take on mismatching bibs and jerseys? We talked about this with Save Us a few episodes ago.
I don't care.
You don't care?
No.
All right,
I actually, me and a client were talking about this, and he was making a note about like, I mean, you wouldn't wear like specialized shoes on your Canyon bike, would you? And I'm like, I literally did that this morning. So
the shoes I feel are an edge case.
But like, or there were socks. I'm all for it. Whatever you have in your closet. I don't have a brand sponsor, so I don't.
There you go.
I don't have to be
wear whatever.
Yeah, I don't have to be as beholden, I guess.
Yeah, that's how I actually feel for other people. But for myself, I'm like, I need to match it. If I don't match it, I feel like I'm like, I don't know, letting myself down or something. But that's just my like OCD or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't care if other people don't. But yeah, I just can't. I get like itchy skin if I mix and match it.
Do what's good for you. If you got itchy skin for that reason, I need you to wear like whatever's going to not do that to you.
And I also need a better therapist. But that's a problem for another day. All right, let's see what the next one is.
My question for Carla about bike fitting is, how often do you have to break the news to your client, fittee, that they have the wrong size frame? And how far are you willing to go to make that wrong size frame fit them with the potential that it may make the bike ride bad?
All right. Let's call him back. What is the correct term? Client, fittee?
I usually call them clients.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey, you called How to Drop Your Friends. This is Mitch. I'm here with Carla. We're going to answer your question, James. A very spicy question about bike sizes. Yeah. Also, we're trying to determine. I liked fittee, but Carla said client was the right answer for how to describe.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure. Fits. Yeah, customer, client.
I usually go with client when it's my client. When they are buying a bike, they are a customer.
Oh, okay.
Right. No, actually, that's an important distinction for this question. I feel like, ideally, you wouldn't sell the wrong size bike to one of your own customers.
No, exactly. But it's a pretty touchy one because some of them have just bought that bike, and
ouch.
Yeah, in most cases, it's not from the shop. A lot of the guys that I work with, like almost not almost all of them, are really good at getting someone on the proper sized bike. I do get called in sometimes when someone's being maybe a little insistent that this is the bike for them, and it's very clear it's not. So they're like, well, let's get our fitter in here to tell you, and so that this way they feel a little bit better about it. In a couple of cases where I have had it, where someone's come in with the wrong size, I just try and be diplomatic and tell them like, okay, ideally I would have wanted you on a size maybe this, like if they're, let's say they're a 52 and they're on a 54. It's like, okay, ideally I think with like your, like how you want to ride the bike and the way that, we're going to set it up. I think a size smaller would have been better, but for now, let's do this. So that usually requires like, different size stems and, oftentimes I do just do whatever I can with the bike that's in front of me and then just make the note that, hey, in the future, next time, if you are looking for a bike, this is the size I would recommend.
Gotcha. I'm sure they love hearing that right after buying a bike.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Do you see
Don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah, exactly. Do you see more people that have bought a bike that's too large for them or too small for them?
Too large.
Too large.
Yeah, that's typically the case. Although I have had a couple of clients who come in with bikes that are too small. I'm trying to think if it's easier one way or the other. It depends. Like, I think if it's too big, oh God, I actually don't know. I think like both of them are really just not ideal.
Yeah.
Someone came in with a bike that was like 2 sizes too small for them, but they knew that, by the way. So it's not as if they were like, shocked by this discovery. They did know, and so we did what we could. And then they're
curious to see if they could make it work.
Yeah, they'd gotten a good deal on it, and like I did not begrudge.
You just put like a 500 millimeter stem on it, and they were good to go.
Yeah,
we did a 130.
I hope you like a lot of drop.
we did a 130, and he's like, yeah, I kind of had a feeling this was going to have to be a 130. He already had a 120 on it.
Sounds like a perfect fit to me. If you like to go fast.
Yeah, super aero 130 all the way slammed.
He was pro.
Yeah, super pro.
Yeah. Work on that back flexibility.
Yeah, and when it comes to being too big, okay, so the come to being too big is like, it's usually guys. I've had a couple.
Wait.
That tracks.
Is it the same guys that say they're like 6'8" on their dating profile, and then in real life they're like 5'8"?
It's those same guys, I bet.
I don't know if that's true. I didn't confirm on like a dating app.
James, Carla's been very diplomatic all day today. She did have something spicy about gravel, but everything else has been you're very good. Yeah.
I'm not trying to lose a client base here. But yes, does tend to be some gentlemen on the not as tall side of things, and again, that's when you just have to be like very, like ideal. Like I think what I've said to someone before was like, you can fit both sizes. I think ideally for how you like to ride, I would put you on this size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, make it about speed.
Yeah.
It is. Smaller bikes are lighter, so by virtue of that.
Yeah.
What do you think, James? You got any follow-up questions?
Well, I'm. When it comes to road bikes, I like a smaller frame and longer stem and all those things. And
you're also proportioned really oddly, by the way. So
that's true. Yeah, you've had me on the trainer before, and I'm all torso and arm, so it's easy to go way out there with the stem. I think what I was getting at is it like depends on the style, I guess. And I'm not a fitter, but I think a real like too big a road bike and you have to go really short stem, it doesn't quite handle right, and too small a mountain bike, really long stem, it doesn't handle right. It's like not, designed around that length but yeah, you answered my question. One follow-up is, how annoying has the prevalence of, integrated, cable routing, been for fitting? Is it a move by, big brake fitting to sell more brake fittings, or or more labor for the mechanics?
I feel like this question's coming from like a personal experience, James.
Oh no, it's totally not unbiased. just noticing those hoses through there makes it hard to swap the stems.
Yeah, full disclosure, James has done a full integrated bar install for me and was like, holy So hard.
Depends on the manufacturer. They're not all so bad.
Yeah.
Happen to know a couple good ones.
Yeah.
James is a mechanic for Reddit.
Yeah. James is
I'd
also
say
part of James is also part of our pyramid scheme. I've given him a few bottles of alcohol.
What? No.
But so to answer your question seriously, though, it is annoying actually, because certain brands don't all use the same standards for the steer. So we have this little device called a fit stem where I can affix it to someone's steer and simulate different lengths of stem and, degrees of drop and everything like that. And it's great. However, it is for a standard 1.125" steer. So if you come in with some of these other brands that use like 1.25" or 1.5", I can't use it.
Yeah.
And so, and it also makes it difficult because I can't even just like swap whatever stem to try out on it because it does need to be that size. So in those cases, sometimes if someone brings that bike in and I think I might need to be fiddling with the stem, I'll go to the move bike. I'll just go right to the move bike instead of trying to fiddle with it. So to answer your question, yes, it is a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I already knew that one, but thanks for humoring me.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for calling in, James. Great questions.
Yeah, you guys have a good one. Thanks.
Thanks, you too. That's great. Integrated stems, handlebars. They look so good.
They look great. They just are not the easiest thing to work on, and they are expensive if it's not right.
Yeah.
So it's when someone comes in and like you have to tell them like, okay, you need this length, and it's like that's another $600. If the manufacturer's like, and if it's not easy to get, like that's rough for everybody because like you want to send your client out feeling good about where you've left them, and if you can't even, you don't even have the equipment to do that, it sucks. So
are bars and stems like the part you see replaced the most often after a fit?
Saddles are a big one. Sometimes we'll do a bar swap because the person wants to, like they want more aero bars, they want to go narrower or something like that. But stems are usually like after saddles, I'd say stems are like the second component part that gets changed.
What causes saddles to be switched out so often?
Size. Most times stock saddles aren't the right size for people. And even if they are, they might not be the right shape. So size is one thing. It'll get you in a good place to start riding, but the shape of the saddle makes a big difference too. Good example are saddles that, have maybe a shorter nose and a wider back, like a wider wing. The wing of that saddle can sometimes interfere with your pedaling motion, and can tend to push you forward. And that can tend to also create some hand pressure because all of a sudden you're like really on top of your bars. So being precise about the shape is as important as being precise about the size.
How somebody that doesn't know what saddle they should get or what shape, what do you recommend?
A lot of like if you don't have the funds for a bike fit, because I do understand it's not the least expensive thing in the world, a lot of manufacturers do have good programs where you can try a saddle for like usually it's like a month, and that's kind of all you really need to understand if that saddle is going to work well for you. A lot of shops have the resources to size at least, so like get you on the right size saddle, and then you can, if you've heard of like, hey, I've heard of this saddle is really good. What do you think about it? And you give an honest answer, and then you're like, yeah, if you want to try it, go ahead and put it on, and then bring it back within like this amount of time, and if it's not working, you can do an exchange.
You can do that? I didn't know you could. So did you do that like through the shop, or like do you email the manufacturer? How does that work? I
don't really know how like much trade secrets this is, but like I don't think it is. It's on most manufacturers' websites. So I think a few brands that do it are like Pro and Specialized. I want to say Physique. I don't really work with Physique.
Yeah.
No real reason. It's just I don't have them.
So basically, I've wasted hundreds of dollars by just straight up buying a saddle that didn't end up fitting me, like a fool when I could have gone.
You could have, I mean, you had a bike fit with me. So like,
Well, that was the one time we found a good saddle. But I'm just saying before that, because I went through on my BMC road machine, I went through 4 different saddles.
wow.
And then I ended up getting this, the Physique 3D printed one, just because I was like, it's 3D printed. It seems really cool.
Yeah.
And then it didn't really fit me, but I was like, I spent like, I don't know, like $300 on this. So I was like, I have to just suffer through it.
Yeah, I mean, that is what a lot of people end up doing. There's a lot of like, there are so many resources on the internet, online, that you can use, and it's hard. There's a lot of sifting through, like, and it's a lot of trial and error. Like, again, if you're not going to come into a fitter, then that is going to be the experience. More than likely, is that you're going to have to try a lot of different components to see what works, because that's what the fitter's job is to do that for you. Because they have those resources, whether it's like an independent fitter or someone like me who works through a shop, where I just have stuff I can grab off the shelf and put on for you. And I have numbers that are, kind of indicating that, yes, this is helping with whatever issue you're having. So if you're not going to do that, which again, I know it's, if you're, if you don't have the funds, then I get it. But then you are going to have to experiment.
You'll still spend the money. I still spent all the money that I would have spent on a bike fit exchanging stuff myself.
Yeah, but I would say to do some research on your own if you are interested in a saddle that is very popular. 3D printed saddles have become really popular in the past couple of years. They are really expensive. So, your entry level 3D printed saddle, I think, is like $325. So that is a big investment. And if you are going to make it, you should do your research. Make sure that wherever you're getting it from, they have like a good return policy or a good exchange policy, so that this way you're not stuck on the hook for all of that. And you're just like, oh, great, I just have a saddle I don't like and I can't choose. So
learn from my mistakes. Let's look at the next question. I have so many follow-up questions, but again, I'm always afraid somebody's going to ask the same thing.
I'm so pleasantly surprised I still had coffee.
Oh, nice. That's always a good surprise. Do you want another one?
I'm good. Thank you, though.
So my question is around basically bike fit. And I basically just got my first, new bike stock to me. And it looks like a chimney with all the spacers up underneath the
Nice.
the handlebars there. And I want to eventually drop it down, obviously visually we all think that's better.
We know it's
but
better.
I'm just wondering, as far as actually getting the bike fit and maybe spending some time and getting a bit more flexible. I'm not really having any issues on the bike right now, but I'm just wondering what's your opinion on kind of doing some yoga and some stretching, spending some time actually trying that before going in and getting that proper bike fit, and maybe, starting to cut your fork and different things. So let me know, kind of your opinion on that. You can give me a call back. I might be getting my teeth cleaned at the time that you're calling back. So if I don't answer, that would be why. But thanks so much. Bye.
Dental hygiene is very important.
Yeah, get your teeth cleaned.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? You called in to drop your friends, or how to drop your friends. This is Mitch. I'm here with Carla about bike fits, but most importantly, we want to know, how clean are your teeth now?
They are much cleaner, and it was terrible. I hate the dentist.
No. Well, congratulations. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can make your day a little better with some bike fit advice from Carla. So you've got a bike with a chimney, the worst of all sins in the bike world. Carla, what can you do?
Okay, so how long have you had the bike?
I just got it on a Black Friday sale a couple
nice.
months back.
Okay, you've had it.
Yeah.
I think you've had it long enough. Question for you is, while you're riding it, do you get any type of sensation, numbness, pain in your hands or in your shoulders?
No, that's part of the thing, is that I'm really comfortable how the bike is right now.
Gotcha.
Just stock with this really stacked, all these spacers underneath. So part of it is like, I want to get rid of this and get more flexible. And part of it is that I mentioned this to some of my more experienced friends, and they tell me to bend over and try and touch my toes, and they go, you probably need to stretch more first.
Okay.
So funnily enough, if you come in for a fit, that's probably one of the things we're going to ask you to do. So part of the fit process is seeing how mobile and flexible a rider is. So depending on that is how high or low the front end is going to be. So if ideally you would like to get the bike into a more like aero, more aggressive position, yeah, you are going to have to work on being able to touch your toes. You're also going to have to work on your hip and hamstring flexibility.
Okay, so is this just like a lot of stretching and foam rolling and just like putting in more time on that kind of stuff?
That's part of it for sure. I think another part that people kind of underestimate is stabilizing. So not just being flexible, but being stable in your flexibility, because in order to maintain a position, the muscles need to be stable. So if you're just flexible, that's great. That's a really big help. But if it's not stable, you actually won't be able to hold the position very well. So not just stretching, but also, going to the gym and doing some targeted exercises for those muscles in mind. So for your hamstrings, for your hips, for your glutes. Those are the three main muscles that are responsible for how low you can actually get, and your back. So, and then the last muscle group that's pretty neglected for us cyclists is your upper body. So
What are you talking about?
So to hold that low position, your shoulders need to also be stable. So that's another thing we check for, is to see how stable the back and shoulders are. If they're not very stable, it's harder for you to sit in that position for a long period of time. So to answer your question, the yoga, stretching, that is all really helpful, but you also need to stabilize the muscles. So you do need to find some exercises that will help with that too.
How many?
Okay, so
Go ahead.
sorry to interrupt here. You confirmed my worst fears, and now it's even worse. You're telling me I need to go to a gym. But that definitely sounds like sound advice.
I know the more sound, the worse it is, right? You've got your teeth clean. Now we're telling you to go to the gym. You should have seen Carla's face when I did the flexibility test for my bike fit, because I came in similarly. I was like, I want to slam the stem. I want it. And the look on Carla's face after she told me to touch my toes was basically like, when are you going to like try to touch your toes? And I was like, I'm trying. I'm trying right now. My flexibility is horrible. I've come to embrace a few spacers. How many do I have? I've got 3 spacers under my stem right now. I think Carla would rather I have 4 or 5, but I've put that. How many do you have right now? How tall is this stack?
It is all the way tall. It has all the stock spacers in there. So part of this is that I think I'm probably going to find the middle ground, right? And,
yeah.
I just wanted to kind of get a feel on the bike first. It's a Tarmac SL8, and so I'll be cutting stuff and making adjustments. So I just want to feel a little more sure on things, and I felt like I should give my chance to just kind of feel the bike out, and then also get more flexible, because I know I'm really not.
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like you guys are confirming what I suspected, but it's really nice to hear it from someone that actually knows what they're talking about.
How wide are your handlebars? Because I might have a little. Carla will have to verify that this is a good idea, but I might have an idea for you. I
couldn't tell you, actually. They're just whatever came stock on the bike.
What size is the bike?
It's a 56.
It's a 56. What year SL8?
The most recent.
The 2025?
Yeah, the purple.
Okay, I think
SL8,
that one came
expert.
with 42 centimeter bars on it. So usually visually you can kind of tell if a person needs to go narrower or wider. The tells are on the bike if they flare their wrists out, they're usually trying to like find some space, so open themselves up. If they flare in or like they drop in, they're usually trying to close up. So if you have someone at home who has a tape measure and is willing to do this for you, if they measure from these 2 points these prominent points on your shoulders, they're the acromions from side to side, you can use that as your measurement. Use it in centimeters, not inches. And that's what we do at the shop too. Sometimes we'll just measure out your shoulders, like with your shoulders square. And yeah, that actually can be helpful too. is narrowing the bars or widening them, depending.
Let's say you have 4 spacers, but you've got the 42s. Stem length is the same, but then you go down to like a 38. In theory, would you be more likely to be able to remove one of the spacers in that case?
Yeah, because your shoulders would be underneath you a bit better.
So there you go. You only have to spend hundreds more dollars, but you could, in theory, drop it even more without doing any stretching.
Yeah. It's free spacer.
Free expensive spacer.
No, that sounds like a great solution as well. Just spend more money. Just keep throwing money at it, right?
That's how we
and
get you.
I'm not like, I definitely could remove some spacers as is if I went in and got a fit. I just kind of want to give myself a full chance of getting a bit more flexible first. So it's just kind of like waiting to pull the trigger on the fit. And then it's just a little more serious than, some of my previous bikes that could have been done. I could take out spacers, move things around, but I want to, cut things and adjust things and have it be more permanent. So just kind of trying to figure out a bike fit with a, more integrated cockpit setup and that kind of thing. So definitely appreciate all the insight here.
Yeah, it was a great question. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling in. Good luck. Glad your teeth are cleaned, and sorry about the advice to go to the gym.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great rest of your show.
Gym advice to go to the gym. Do you think all cyclists should go?
Yeah.
Right away. Yeah.
I've seen you all, and the amount of it's crazy because so many cyclists want to be in the long, low position. And it's not about the aesthetic part of it. For us, it's like, is that safe? Like, is it efficient? Because what's more important to me is how efficient you are. Like, if you can be efficient in the position you're in, at least in my opinion, you can go faster. The less you have to worry about moving yourself around on the bike because you're uncomfortable, because you've put yourself in a position that's not good for you, the better you're going to be. The more you squirm, the more you're adjusting, the less focus you can have on just pedaling your bike and going fast or going up the hill or going down the hill, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
cycling's painful enough without making it worse.
Yeah, but a long, long time ago, there was this guy who on Facebook asked, should I slam the stem or should I slam the stem or not? And it's how flexible are you? And it's he was not. So it's don't slam the stem.
And then you slam the stem.
Yeah, and then he complained about it. So
that's what happens.
That's what happens.
And that's how we met. Just kidding.
Hi, is there a way, I don't think there's any helping me actually, but is there a way to fit me better to climb more efficiently and climb faster?
Okay.
No need to call back. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Looks like they don't want to call back. I assume they're also at the dentist right now.
On this rainy day in LA, everyone's getting their teeth cleaned.
Yes.
Is there a way to fit so that you are more efficient climbing? Yeah. So part of it is going to be actually kind of related to the other guy's question is the stack height.
Okay.
The climbing position is the most efficient when you're seated. Standing up is just a good way of relieving some pressure off of your body. So, because we are, when we do a fit, we fit statically. So a lot of people like to get up while they're pedaling and I have to tell them to sit down. Or they like to get into the drops, which is not the position that we are trying to fit for. So the primary position we're trying to fit for is on the hoods, because that's where you spend about 85-95% of your time. And yeah, if you are more inclined to climbing versus full aero speed, then we are probably going to keep you a little higher so that you can sit in your position for longer. Because as you're going up a hill, because you're approaching, everything's angled, right? So your bike has angles to it. You are in an angle. When you come to a grade, and the grade is super steep, you're probably going to end up standing. But the more you can sit in the bike to get the full power of your legs out of it, the better. So if you're already in an angle that's super aggressive, like a crit angle, let's say, it's going to be harder for you to maintain that position for a long period of time going up. At any point, if you hit a really steep grade, you're probably going to stand. So the bike fit actually doesn't matter at that point, or it matters less. But ideally, what we're trying to do is keep you in a good seated position where you can get the full range of motion out of your seated position. So again, if you're like flat backed on a flat, when you're going up a hill, it's going to be really, really hard. And I'm just talking about us mortal beings.
I was going to say, what do you think about, because Pogačar, tips his saddle down, right, on stages where there's a lot of climbing?
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea, by the way, because, again, angles. So that's actually a very mountain bike thing to do. My saddle on my mountain bike is tipped down.
Really?
Yeah, because as you are going up a grade again, and my bike has also got full suspension on it, so you're going to be dipping like this, which is going to open up the wheelbase. This is super nerdy, I'm sorry.
So for the listeners, Carla's showing that, I guess, the suspension, the wheels push down and out?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So they're kind of always opening, which means the angle of the saddle is always going like that.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually always going away from the front end. So if you tip down, you're able to keep your weight forward. If you tip up, you're always going to be going back because you're going to be fighting against the nose of the saddle at that point. So going down, it almost kind of equals it out, where if it's tipped down and you're going at this extreme grade, you're actually sitting on it level. So stupid physics.
Makes
also
sense.
Geometry.
Yeah.
But yes, there is a way to circle back to the question. Yes, there is a way to fit someone ideally to be a climber. I'd say I don't get that type of. Oh no, that's not true. I have some people who are just I just like to climb. I just want to be comfortable climbing, and so the goal then is to just keep them in a comfortable position where they can just sit and suffer in happiness, I guess. So
that's the best description of climbing I've ever heard.
Yeah, and there's no one way to do it. I mean, keeping you a little bit more upright is one way, but also like you were mentioning the Pogačar thing, the tilt of the saddle is going to make a difference.
Do you have your weight more forward? Is that the
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You have to, because again, just keep thinking about if you're trying to go up a hill. Just think about it this way. When you're walking up a hill, how do you walk up a hill? Are you lean back or you lean forward?
I realize the stupidity of my question now. Definitely leaning forward.
I would I always try and use, and I do this as a salesperson too. Because a lot of the things that I encounter in the fit studio are also things that I talk about on the sales floor, which is what's the goal with the bike? What do you want to do with it? If you are if you're buying a bike in California and then you're hey, I'm moving to Florida, it's okay, well, let's get you an aero bike. Because who cares about hills?
Yeah.
But if you are I'm just moving to California from Florida, then, let's get you maybe something a little bit more all around and stuff like that. But it all comes down to asking questions. So no question is dumb, Mitch.
We'll see if I can disprove that by the end of the podcast.
I just got back into cycling recently. I did it when I was a kid and grew up. And I kind of got the gym and I got really injured. I injured my back. And so getting back on the saddle, I've been having some issues. Most of them are with my knees and my perineum. So I already have a cutout saddle, but I'm still noticing pain. So I'm curious if there are any saddle adjustments or stem adjustments to kind of find a more comfortable position where I can cycle for 2 hours without worrying about those issues.
That's a fun, tricky one.
If you don't know the answer, we can go to Remy and he'll
give us.
He's been banned from the podcast though, so he can't speak anymore.
So cute.
He's y'all can't see him, but he's nose to the door trying to escape.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going? You called into How to Drop Your Friends. This is Mitch. I'm here with Carla. You asked a question about bike fits and dealing with knee pain and all kinds of pain.
So when I sit on the saddle, it's uncomfortable. I sometimes feel almost like I'm about to pee myself. So really bad time. I have a history of a back injury. And I'm just curious, is there any easier ways to deal with that? Or should I just, go straight to spending money on a bike fit?
So for your perineum pain, is it happens right away, or it's gradual?
It's gradual. It gets worse over a ride, and it is right now. It's kind of flared up, but when it isn't,
Usually I don't notice it much on my road bike, but I do on my commuter bike, which has maybe a worse saddle.
Okay, gotcha. A different type of saddle is probably what I would recommend. Making sure that the saddle that you're on is the right size. We were just discussing earlier that size is one way to really help get you started, and then shape is the other way. And it sounds like the saddle you're on has like a wide cutout. In recent years, it's been found that the cutout isn't always helpful. It can sometimes cause some irritation in that area. So there are saddles now that they still have the cutout, but they've filled it in with some softer materials. So again, a couple different manufacturers do this, and that's been really, really helpful for a lot of my clients are getting saddles like that. So I think Pro, Specialized, and Physique all have something in that realm. I'm sure there are other brands. I don't know all of them though.
Yes. Okay.
I just learned this because I made this mistake before of apparently you can, I don't know what you called it, Carla, like you can test out saddles from different manufacturers and they'll actually let you borrow the saddle for like a month or so.
I mean, it's not borrowing. You do need to buy it.
Oh, okay.
You need to buy it. You need to buy it, but you have sort of kind of like a guarantee. Yeah. It's basically that you can buy it, try it, and bring it back within a period of time, depending on the manufacturer, for a full refund or an exchange.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a good policy to have, especially with stuff like saddles.
Yeah, because if you're not gonna, even with a bike fit, like I always say this to clients, it's like the trainer, we do it on a trainer on an even platform with no bumps, no road conditions. So when you go out onto the road and actually experience real world riding, what we did in studio might not completely translate. In a lot of cases, people come back for their follow-ups and they're like, this, and this was great, except this. And, part of it could be the saddle. And so, it's always...
LA roads aren't exactly a trainer.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you talking about? They're beautiful.
They're beautiful. They are not comfortable.
That's absolutely true.
I would question beautiful. But yes, and then your knee pain.
I like the hills.
Yes.
Yeah, same.
And your knee pain, does your knee pain also happen gradually?
The knee pain is kind of, it just was getting worse over the past few weeks of just like kind of top, middle knee. It doesn't feel too bad on rides, but it's just enough to be frustrating.
I see.
And kind of get me off the bike as well.
Okay. Does your knee pain happen at the beginning and middle of your rides?
Kind of towards the end, and then I'll be dealing with it more acutely for the next day or so.
Okay.
Oh.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a combination of things then, and I cannot give you the full solution. I would say to start with your saddle and try and trial and error with that. So if you make sure you're on the right size, and then find the right padding level and find the right shape, and whatever saddle you do end up on, just make sure that you can, when you buy it, that there is a way that you can return it without having to worry about whether or not it gets scuffed or if it looks a little worn. Sometimes you don't need the full amount of time that they give you. You really just need a couple of solid rides, and you'll usually be able to tell. But as long as you feel comfortable making the purchase, the initial investment in that. And the knee pain that you're talking about, again, knee pain is tricky. It's like when you bring your bike in to the shop and you're like, I hear a noise. And it's like, okay, great. Do you know where it's coming from? Yeah. It's like, no. Okay, great. So we're just using a process of elimination to figure out. So if you can get the saddle right, in a lot of cases that'll help a lot with the knee pain. If you're still having knee pain and maybe that perineum pain is going away, then it could be both a cleat placement thing and a positioning thing of the saddle as well. Yeah.
There's definitely some positioning things because the bike is handed down from my father, who is very differently proportioned, although a very similar height. And so I've made some adjustments, but I think I'm probably just sitting somewhere. Something is wrong, and that's putting a bunch of stress on my joints.
Yeah. Again, it's
not helped by my many injuries.
if all of your
go ahead.
sorry, if
Carla.
all of your self-help doesn't work, then yeah, I would suggest going to see a bike fitter. Any bike fitter that you like, any reputable bike fitter, because that third eye is really helpful. We had someone ask like who fits the bike fitter, and we do get fit ourselves because we do that third eye is really helpful.
That makes sense. How are you hurting yourself? Is this on the bike? Is this the roads of LA?
It's a mix. So I think the commuter bike was the thing that really started the perineum pain. But I got a really bad back injury this last January, so 2024, doing weightlifting because I was into that for a few years.
Yeah.
As college students, we lift heavy weights and are dumb, and then the result is back pain that lasts the rest of my life. But that's how it goes.
A small price to pay.
Small price to pay for the gains.
I shouldn't joke about that. When I don't know what to say, I just say something stupid.
I'm very happy joking about it because the reality of it is I need to deal with it, and like life is sometimes like that, and you just got to learn to laugh away the discomfort sometimes.
Let me make you feel a little bit better about that, because when I was in college, I actually was a really big weightlifter, mostly Olympic lifting. And at one point I had a goal.
I was doing powerlifting.
Yeah.
I was not skilled enough to Olympic lift. So I tried.
So powerlifting and Olympic lifting, but like, the base of that is like your deadlift. And for a long time I had a goal of like hitting like 300 pounds. I never got to it. The closest I got was 280.
So close.
Yeah. And once you hit those, I'll make this brief though. I tried to get to 285, and like the 2.5 pounds at that weight is like so much. I went for it. I got it like a little off the ground and immediately felt my back. I was like, oh God.
No.
So
my whole injury, I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time,
it's
but
fine.
I can go through like the 30-second yap about it. So I was in preparation for a powerlifting meet because I was getting really into it. And I was squatting. I was doing my warm-ups, so 335 for a triple. And I went to re-rack the weight, and it bounced out, and I kind of got bent sideways. And I managed to recover it.
Oh my God.
And because I was so pumped full of adrenaline and my back was so warmed up, I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
So I just kept lifting. And then the day after, obviously, I wake up in a ton of pain. And so I'm kind of going super light for 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, I'm going to try to deadlift just, 180, which was like half of what I was deadlifting at the time. It did not feel good. And then the day after, I woke up with pain in my legs. And it's like, I did something really bad.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, the real frustration is that because I've gotten kind of out of the gym, a lot of those smaller muscles have gotten really weak.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I go back to the gym, I'm like, I can do heavy-ish weights on like all the cable exercises. And then I end up with elbow pain and knee pain and shoulder pain. And it's a great time.
It sounds like a brutal cycle.
Yeah.
I'm like a 30-year-old and I'm 21.
Well, to make you feel better. So I'm 37 and I haven't been lifting weights for a long time, like over 10 years. And I'm just riding my bike, and I picked up my 15-pound dog the other day and threw out my back. Definitely keep up some core exercises and
Sounds
stuff.
Like you need a 64-pound dog, like I do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was never an Olympic weightlifter, so.
Yeah, I am hoping it does not get worse. I'm hoping I can invert the normal pattern and have not a lot of back pain in my 30s and just deal with it all in my youth.
I would suggest before we go, doing some practical movements. So some like actually like very concentrated movements to isolate the muscles. I'm not a physical therapist. I know a lot of physical therapist friends, and that's what they would probably suggest, is trying to find like exercises that isolate so that you can focus on them.
I've been to PT, and I just need to, my biggest thing is I just need to do it. It's really hard to
That's always the hard part.
Therapy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for your question.
All right. Thank you guys.
I used to run a lot in college, and then like several years later, I moved to New York, and I hadn't run for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and I did just a 10K. But similar to this guy, like I ran the 10K at my pace in college. The last like 2K was pure pain on my left knee, but I just like pushed through.
Sure.
And then I was in physical therapy because my IT band was like inflamed. I did physical therapy for 3 months, and it was the most painful experience of my life. The amount of pain that the physical therapist could put me through with minimal movement was incredible. I felt like it was like a torture device. He would barely have me move my leg, and it'd be all I could do to just like not scream.
Yeah. I've never, knock on wood, I haven't had to be in physical therapy because of an injury. I have done some stupid stuff where I've injured myself, but this actually kind of ties into how I tell people what to do after their fits.
Yeah.
Because something that's pretty underestimated is the tiny movements that we might make during a 2-hour session can actually make a huge difference. And they're also, those tiny movements are to help engage muscles that are more meant to be efficient. So whether it's moving a saddle like fore and aft, it's bringing the saddle up, changing the saddle, changing your positioning on the bars, all of that stuff is going to engage muscles differently. And so one of the biggest things I tell people before they leave is to take it easy. So this guy was talking about going back to the gym and trying to go back right into like what he used to do. Mm-hmm. That's how I kind of caveat with people. I'm like, if you haven't been to the gym in a while and you try and go back and do exactly what you used to do, you're going to hurt yourself. So in the same way with your bike fit, when you start moving stuff around and we end up where we are, it could feel really, really good in the studio, but you need to give yourself some time to warm yourself up. So, because newer, different muscles that have either not been engaged in a while or were never engaged, which means they're weak, are going to be engaged now. So if you go out there and I'm like, okay, so take it easy, and you want to go out and do a 50-mile ride, well, and you start, and then you start like feeling a lot of pain in mile like 30, that's what we're trying to avoid. Yeah. So we want you to kind of keep it, in that like hour range, so that this way, if you do start to feel a little sore, okay, it's that acclimation period. Versus like if you go out and do a 50-mile ride and you're in pain and then you come back and complain to your fitter about it, your fitter's going to be kind of annoyed. Yeah. Because while it could be something with the fit, because you went out and did a 50-mile ride when we told you not to, it's hard for us to then like key in on what the issue could be. This is just kind of a little bit of advice, like a little bit of like very friendly, like please. If you, whoever is your fitter, if they tell you to take it easy on the first couple of rides, please do that. Do them that favor, because it's going to be really helpful when you maybe have to come back in for adjustments, because then they can eliminate issues that are not related to your mileage. If you leave and you're like, you go out and do a 50-mile or a century and you're like, I was in pain. I was like, okay, how many miles did you ride? You rode 100. Okay. You're going to be in pain. Most people are in pain after about 70 miles of a century. So that's really, really hard for us to then like key in on like, okay, what was the issue? So do us that favor, please.
So always have your fit before a big event is what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
Never do that. When should people have their fit?
A lot of people come in like months before a big thing that they're trying to do. Part of our job is to ask why you came in. So for some people, it's just general, like, hey, I just want to be comfortable. Other people, they come in and they're like, hey, I'm doing the Solvang Century this like in a couple months. That event just passed, or hey, I'm gonna be doing my first Ironman at the end of the year, or hey, I am trying to do this century ride with my friends and I want to do it in this time. So with that information in mind, that it can help kind of guide the fit in the direction that, or someone might come in and just like, hey, I'm a racer, I want my fit like this. Great, let's set it up that way. If you come in the day before you want to do something, I'm probably going to ask if you want to reschedule. In that case, if you are already experiencing pain, while the bike fit might be helpful down the line, it could also aggravate something else. Yeah. So if that's the case, if you have an event that's within like a week, I would actually suggest like just holding off until after the event.
Makes sense. I remember when I did my first fit with you, we adjusted my cleats quite a lot. And the first day I rode back, I immediately noticed, because obviously like my feet were like kind of in a different position. And then I looked down at my power meter. I felt like I was doing like my zone 2 power, but I was like almost at threshold. And I thought you had unlocked like these magic powers. And I was like, yes, like it feels different. Maybe these new muscles are stronger. And then I realized I hadn't calibrated my power meter.
That was really funny.
Yeah. But it was, I immediately felt different muscles being used. And then once I got used to it, took a little while to kind of build up those muscles. Once I got used to it, it ended up like working a lot better for me. But yeah, I wish the power would have stayed too. But I guess it never was there. So
no, I can think. Don't unlock anything too magical, unfortunately.
Did you get a lot of people asking, like, can you make me stronger on the bike?
I get a lot of people joking that, like, I'm expecting to
but they're being serious. Somewhere deep down.
Yeah, there's like, I'm expecting to be able to do this century in 5 hours or 4 hours. And I'm like, okay, I will not guarantee that. But I'll help however I can. So, I mean, for sure, like people come in with expectations that they are going to be faster. And part of being like comfortable and efficient on the bike is going to help with that. So I can't guarantee that you'll be much faster, but if you're comfortable, you're able to stay in that position longer. So
Gotcha. It's like a part of the full equation of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Let's see. We got 2 more if you still got time.
Oh yeah, I'm good.
All right. Here we go.
I'm thinking about paying for my first professional fit, but I just wanted to know how well it transfers to other bikes. Like I have a cyclocross bike and a mountain bike. If I wanted to get fitted for my cyclocross bike, how well would it go across for me to do my mountain bike on my own? Okay, thank you, Liz.
All right. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but I think it's worth calling Liz back. Cyclocross.
Liz is a badass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, Liz, this is Mitch from How to Drop Your Friends. I'm here with Carla. We're going to talk about bike fit stuff. But first, Carla said you're a badass because you're a cyclocross racer. How's your season going?
Not very good.
Oh, no.
I'm pretty busy this season, so I haven't really done anything.
Oh, no.
She's a badass for both, for many reasons. One of them is the racing, but the other is like her job. She's a badass.
Oh, what do you do for your job?
I'm in plant operations. I work in power plant.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So she's in the trades.
In the trades, keeping the lights on for all of us. So let's go back to bikes, I guess, because I know nothing about power plants. So you've got the cyclocross bike, you've got a mountain bike. Are those your 2 bikes?
Yeah.
Okay. Carla, how do you fit a cyclocross bike and a mountain bike, and what's different between the fits?
Well, the cyclocross bike has no suspension.
I knew that.
So that'll be the biggest. That'll be the biggest thing. They're not really going to translate over terribly well. That's not 100% true. If I fit one of them, I would use that initial fit as like a starting point for the second one. But that there's still probably going to have to be some more adjustments done on the second one because the bikes are just so different. Like a full suspension mountain bike will not move and pedal the same way as a rigid hardtail even. So if you fit one, you'll probably still need to do some more work with the other one.
So what I'm hearing is Carla wants you to spend more money with her.
No, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good about making sure that my clients don't have to do that. It's more about like the initial fit I'll use as my basis. And like if someone wants me to do something on the second one, we're not going to go all out and do a second fit, but I can at least have them sit on the trainer really quickly and do some like very minor, like set them up with those numbers I got and then use that as like a basis to move stuff around.
If somebody could only get a fit on a cyclocross bike or a gravel bike or a road bike or a mountain bike, they have 2 bikes like Liz, which would you consider the priority if in this world they ride both the same amount?
They ride both of them the same amount? Probably the rigid.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
I find mountain bikers have a set preference already for what they like to do. A lot of them have been riding for so long that they kind of are just used to what they've been riding on. And when we do a mountain fit, the main focus is actually setting the saddle height and setting the fore and aft and setting the cleats. And then that front end part is a lot more subjective. Like there's definitely data, but some people like running their bars wide and like running their positioning here really differently. They like it more inboard, they like it more outboard. A lot of that goes down to like hand positioning. So if I had to pick one, whatever's rigid.
Okay. So mountain bikers just know more about their bikes and bodies than road cyclists.
I mean, they probably have crashed a lot more. So they probably have started to figure it out.
Liz, what do you ride more, mountain bike or cyclocross?
Right now, I ride my mountain bike more, but I feel like I've never really refined any road riding fit, if that makes any sense. So I feel like there's a lot of room to grow, just like Carla said. I do feel like I know my mountain bike more.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot more. Carla's been teaching me how to mountain bike. So it's a lot like, trying to make sure a baby doesn't hurt themselves while they're walking around. But the one thing we talk about a lot is the bike body separation on the mountain bike. Whereas on the road bike, you're kind of like glued to it. And then on the mountain bike, there's a lot more time where like I'm moving the bike under my body, separate from my body. Mm-hmm. And that was just like a whole new experience.
Yeah. Like a bike fit is it's dynamic because we are taking into consideration what you do when you move. But as soon as you detach from the saddle, like basically when you stand, everything that you've done is not as applicable because you're away from like the main fulcrum point, which is the saddle. So like when the dropper post goes down, if you have a full suspension mountain bike, your dropper post goes down, you start descending, whatever you did for the fit is not as applicable. Not that it's not, like if you made the front end super short, that could be that's going to change the handling.
Yeah.
But that's what I mean. Like a lot of mountain bikers know how they ride and how they want to ride. So they set the bike up to how they want to ride.
Yeah.
Versus road, you're kind of like beholden to whatever terrain you're on.
Is there anything for cyclocross? I keep saying cyclocross wrong. Cyclocross. Like, is that fit different at all? Because there's a lot of jumping on and off with the bike, carrying the bike.
I haven't had as many cyclocross riders. It's not as big a thing here on the West Coast. Mm-hmm. The East Coast, it's huge. People love cross bike riding on the East Coast. There's a lot of places to do it. So I have not as much of experience, honestly, with that. So in the brief experiences I have had, it's kind of like crit dirt racing. So it's shorter periods of time on the bike. Actually, it's actually more aggressive than you would think. It's not as comfortable as people expect it to be for like being a dirt bike.
It doesn't look comfortable at all.
Liz, would you say it's comfortable or uncomfortable?
I mean, I feel like that's such a subjective statement.
How wide? Because cyclocross tires aren't very wide either, right? How wide are your tires, Liz?
Oh my goodness, maybe like 1.5 inches.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not, you're not on like a 2.1 mountain bike tire or anything. You're digging through the dirt.
No, it's super different. Very easy to get sucked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's more about like speed and efficiency sort of thing. I've never raced cyclocross. You can tell me this, but like every time I watch my friends do cyclocross races, they come off like just caked in mud and like looked so miserably tired. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that's for me.
What got you into cyclocross?
I was exposed to Dorothy Wong, who was really into the Southern California cyclocross and mountain bike scene. So she organized a lot of the races. So kind of got sucked in through the the high school mountain bike league.
I wish I had known about this kind of stuff when I was growing up. I didn't have a mountain bike team in my high school, so I just played traditional sports, and I didn't really get into cycling like as a hobby thing until like 2017 or something like that, 2016. And I think I would have been pretty good at it, honestly, but we'll never know now.
We'll never know. Well, thanks for calling in, Liz. I'm sorry we completely derailed from all the bike fit questions because we talked about cyclocross.
Did I answer your question, or do you have any follow-ups?
No, I think you answered it pretty well. Thank you.
No problem. Have a great day.
Thanks for calling in.
Bye, guys.
Cyclocross is one of those things where I'm like, that just seems so badass.
It looks really cool, and I have to say that it's probably I think it's the most exciting race to watch, because there's just so much going on. Like, you might have like a little whoop section. You might have like this stupid downhill into like a G out, or it's always muddy. It's always cold looking, but it's just exciting to watch versus I think road cycling is pretty boring.
Yeah.
I think there are moments, there's always those moments, right? You know, those like legendary attacks or something like that, or like these amazing descents that these guys do. But because it's over the course of like 4 hours, and usually at like 5 a.m, I'm not really catching it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny that like, I think, the little closed circuit helps a lot. There are these videos. Do you know who Average Rob is?
No.
I live in the YouTube world, so this is all, but there's this guy, he's, this Belgian YouTuber, like the biggest Belgian YouTuber, but he does all kinds of videos, but he's done a bunch of cyclocross, or as he says, cyclocross. And he gets a bunch of YouTubers around and they do cyclocross races and people that don't even ride bikes. And it's hilarious because you have people like you have like pros riding and they're dominating. Then you have people that like have never ridden a bike really before and they're like falling in the mud. It's really fun to watch. And yeah, the complete opposite of road cycling. I had a buddy in town the other day. He's a really big football fan, like follows a bunch of like UK football clubs. So we watched like a couple football matches, and then the Lakers are having a good year right now, like knock on wood. We watched a couple Lakers games, and he's like, let's watch some road cycling. I want to understand like road cycling. And I'm trying to explain to him all about all the different jerseys and sprint points and KOM points and all that.
Oh my God.
And he's just like, we didn't even make it. Like, I of course I fast forward to the end of a stage trying to give him, we didn't even get like 5 minutes in. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to watch this.
Yeah. I have some coworkers at work who got like really, really into watching the tours, like the grand tours and everything like that. And yeah, it's not really for me. Like I can do the 20-minute like highlights, I think are fun, but like a full sitting there and like watching the full thing, just not like personally my thing. I can totally see why you'd get excited about it, but it's just not for me. And I did grow up with like the more traditional sports. So like I grew up watching baseball and football and basketball, soccer to a lesser extent.
Yeah.
I played most of those sports and like, not football. I played most of those sports, so it made me more engaged in those sports. Watching cycling where there's like just not a lot happening all at the same time, because I don't want to like the hours you spend watching.
It's a lot of time.
Well, the hours you spend watching a baseball game where nothing can happen is also the same.
Yeah.
But like, if you're at the game, it's kind of fun. Like, if you were at a cycling event, like a world tour stage, you get to watch like what, 30 seconds?
Literally, yeah. Yeah, I got to go last year to the Tour de France, and we're in a follow van, but even with that, we only got to see the peloton pass us 2 times in the 5-hour stage. It's a huge time investment. It's a huge investment of like learning all the different pros and their positions. Like you can't understand the chess match that's going on unless you're like investing all this time to learn about the different teams. And
if you don't understand the sport you're watching and you do not want to spend the time to understand it, it won't be as enjoyable.
Yeah.
Unless it's got like a real spectacular feel to it in motion. I think basketball has the best.
That's the great thing about basketball.
Because the court's not as big. We're getting into the sports.
That's fine.
Like, yeah, the court's not as big. It, the action is happening all like almost every play. There's something happening versus like cycling. It's like, okay, great.
There's a breakaway. It's exciting for like 10 seconds and then the breakaway is established or it's not. And then you're like, okay, now what?
Okay, is the breakaway going to stay established? And if it does the whole time, that's kind of boring. If someone goes off to chase, it's kind of fun, but they could also just get swallowed back up. To me, cycling is rough because it happens over this huge course. And so you don't get to sit and watch for as long. I mean, man, the Europeans, I give it up to them. They get into it.
Yeah.
Here, it's like we have like no actual like infrastructure for it. We have amazing places where you could do an amazing, spectacular road race. There used to be one here in California, and it's a shame that we don't have it anymore. So, anyway.
Yeah, no, it's true. I find I do like watching like a classic race with a cup of coffee in the background while I'm like working on something, and then I'll tune in as like something's happening, and then now you can like pause and rewind. So if I miss something, I just like rewatch the move. But to sit for a couple hours, I'm going to get demolished in the comments for saying this. I'm sorry to all my diehard cycling watching people. It's just, you know, I'm an American with a short attention span. I like basketball. Like ball go in basket, good. As you get deeper into it, you can understand more of like the IQ of the sport and how different plays are setting up. But it's hard with cycling. There's no ball go in basket, you know? So,
I mean, to those people who love to watch cycling, I'm sure it would be almost the same as like someone, again, trying to get into baseball. If you're not from America, it's a lot of, I think it's super fun to watch, but if there's like if it's like a 1-0 game, there's a lot of hard hit balls that get caught because the fields are huge here, and then a lot of strikeouts, which again is super fun to watch like on the TV. But if you're like at a game and all it was strikeouts, it'd be like, damn it.
Yeah.
I want to see 6 home runs today.
Exactly.
All right. So,
anyways, so now that we've lost half of the audience, we got one more question.
Hi, Mitch. My name's Matt. I was calling because I had a professional bike fit roughly a year and a half ago before I did RAGBRAI, and everything's pretty much the same. But at some point, do I need to go back and have like a checkup and make sure everything still fits the same way?
Do you know what RAGBRAI is?
No.
It's I forgot what it stands for. It's riding across Iowa.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So it's a long ride. So the fit must have been pretty good if you
I've had a lot of people come in for ultras.
Hello?
Hey, is this Matt?
It is.
Hey, Matt, this is Mitch from How to Drop Your Friends. I'm here with Carla. We're talking bike fits today. But first I want to know, how was RAGBRAI?
It was awesome. It was fun. I did it in 2023. It was the 50th year, and I turned 50 that year, so I thought it'd be fun to do. I'm fairly new to cycling. I got into it about 4 years ago.
And then you're like, I'm just going to ride across Iowa.
Well, it was, you know, like you and Phil, like your videos, I watched some other people's, and it seemed like RAGBRAI was kind of a bucket list thing for cyclists. And I live in Kansas City, Missouri, so it really wasn't that far for me to do.
Nice.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
That's super cool. So your question was whether or not you need to go back and see for like a checkup. The answer is, are you in any pain?
I've had some things on my left side. This going back to September. I kind of had an Achilles thing. Then I had a hammy thing, and I've got a knee thing that goes on. And I think it might be a tight hip. I don't know. I've been trying new stretches, but go ahead with what you were going to say.
Well, with all of that information, then I would say yes.
Okay.
So bike fits are not static. By that I mean they don't stay the same throughout our entire cycling lives, basically. So as we get older, or maybe we have less activity on the bike for whatever reason, we tend to lose some of that flexibility and stability that we had when we maybe initially started. So when you started off, your fitter probably saw how you were in one way. And since I'm just assuming you've probably been riding consistently. So things have probably changed where the position might also need to change. And whatever position he had you in for the ride initially was probably great, it sounds like. And then since then, you know, like maybe you're not riding these big, long rides anymore. So maybe you don't need that position, or maybe you need a modification on it.
Yeah, I might. And I hadn't thought about a bike fit until I saw Mitch's post today. So,
oh, there we go.
Yeah. So I would suggest, like, if that fitter is, you know, someone that you enjoyed working with, to go back to them, because that person should, in theory, know like the most about your fit to start with. I try to keep people going to the same person because there's this kind of like rapport that you build with the client where you know how they ride, you know what they like to do, you know what they don't like. And so you can kind of tailor the fit towards that with that information in mind. If you go to like several different people, there's a principle, like there's like a standard that most fitters try to follow, but every fitter has a different style that they've adopted from other people that they've met over the course of time. Like when I first started fitting and where I am now, very different. My style has been adopted from a number of different instructors and has become my own style. And so when I get return clients, we can get through what we need to get through really quickly because we already know each other. So yeah, if that fitter is still active and you had a good time with him, I'd suggest going back.
Sounds good. I probably will.
Awesome.
Probably as soon as it warms up here.
Nice.
I forget it's frigid. It's just raining here and we're probably complaining more than we should.
I know. Yeah. What's the temperature in Kansas City right now?
It's below freezing, I think.
Man.
We got about 4 inches of snow today, so.
Oh. Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in Minneapolis and living in California for 4 years now. It's amazing how little it takes for me to complain.
I was in New York City.
When I watch your videos and it's sunny and warm and you're climbing beautiful hills, I'm just like, so jealous.
Well, you have to come right out here sometime.
Yeah.
Would you have any fun rides coming up? Any other big like events?
I'm doing a gravel ride, a local gravel ride in May. And then every year in June, I go to Tulsa for the Tulsa Tough. I don't do the crit races. I do the Grand Fondos.
That's cool.
Cool, yeah.
I always wanted to go.
Yeah, I like Grand Fondos as well. I like the like camaraderie and the sense of accomplishment without endangering my collarbones.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, hopefully that was helpful, Matt. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Right, bye. What do you mean fits are not static? You mean I'm probably due for a fit again here pretty soon.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty common question I get is like how often do I have to come back in? And it does depend. Some people can stay in like the same fit position for like a long time and not really experience any like adverse effects. But as soon as he started like rattling off these like sensations and pains that he was feeling, it's like, okay, it's probably time. But you know, when you have a fit with most fitters will like they do want you to come back in. In like my case, you know, we have 2 follow-up sessions that are a part of your initial buy-in. Again, the reason being that the trainer doesn't completely simulate road conditions. And then the second just being like, hey, we just want to make sure that everything we did is feeling good. Some people don't come back for their follow-up. Some people never do. Like I'll check in with them and they'll be like, I'm feeling great. I'm like, all right, great. You don't have to come back in. Other people, like I said, will be like, it's feeling great, except this, and that. Sometimes you do get that. Sometimes you get to like, hey, this is feeling awful. And like, that's never a good feeling, but that is the reason for the follow-up. Because again, the way that I do the fit with like all the sensors, again, there is a human element to it. So while the sensors might be reading A-okay, everything's looking great, there is something to be said about how the rider is feeling. So everything might look good numbers wise, but if they're like, hey, I'm getting this sensation or I'm getting this sensation or hey, this doesn't feel good. There's a little mix of like, okay, let's give it a shot. And also, okay, let's modify. And it's all about figuring out when to do one or the other. Because sometimes some people are just like not used to the feeling. And so you need to suss out whether it's because they're not used to it and just encourage them to give it a shot. And other times it can just be like, oh, this is just like not a good position for them. Even though it like with all the sensors hooked up, like it looks good and visually it might look good. But if it doesn't feel good, you need to take that into consideration.
What's a common misconception people have about bike fits and what to expect out of a bike fit?
Maybe one of them is that like they're going to feel good immediately. And for some people, it's easier than others. Some people, they can just, the changes that you make in your first session are exactly what they needed. For other people, they might have more needs. They might be more sensitive. Some of the changes you make need to be more minimal than you think. I think the other day I had a rider who has like his whole right side is longer than the left side. So he has a longer right arm and a longer right leg. And he was giving me some feedback about the fit, that it felt great, except that he was getting a lot of pressure on the right side of his body, specifically his right sit bone. And so what we ended up doing is we moved his cleat so that his left foot would go further forward. I'd already done it before. I'd only done it by about 1 millimeter. The second time I did it, like another 3. And, he just got back to me. He's like, it feels much better.
Nice.
So that's I think that's the thing, is that like, I think a lot of people come in expecting that I'm going to make these big changes and that it's immediately going to make them feel better. And in some cases, I'm doing really small things.
Mm-hmm.
And so the perception might be that they didn't need to come in, or like there was like, I didn't do as much as like the fee would indicate that I should. But it is sometimes it's just those little tiny changes, those things, again, that third eye.
Mm-hmm.
That third eye can be really helpful because sometimes you've been changing everything else around and it hasn't worked. And like, okay, I just moved the saddle forward 1 millimeter and all of a sudden you're feeling better.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what happens, but like, that can be sometimes.
Yeah. That's the, because especially on the road bike, I guess, you're just repeating the same motion thousands of times over and over and over again. So a little change compounds over time.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't seem related, but for example, you're trying a helmet on. You try a helmet on and like, I'll ask someone like, how's it feel? It's like, oh, it feels okay. It's kind of pinching here. And I'm like, not the right helmet. Why? Because if it's pinching in the store for the 2 seconds you've had it on your head, now imagine you're wearing it for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. It's just going to be worse and worse and worse and worse as time goes on. So yeah, like if you're feeling that little bit of sensation and it starts to build and build and build and build, it's just going to get worse. So yeah, you do need it is those little tiny things. It is that sometimes it is just that tilt of the saddle. Sometimes it's that tiny movement of the cleat. Sometimes it's that tiny adjustment of the bar angle or the tilt, anything like that.
We've upset gravel riders.
Mm-hmm.
We've upset people who watch the sport of cycling. We're going to upset some more people here in the final segment, Cycling Court. But before we do that, where can people find you?
I'm on Instagram. It's pretty easy. It's my it's CM Northy. And if you want to come just say hi and say what's up, I work at InCycle in Pasadena.
Here's your gavel.
Oh, okay.
In each episode in Cycling Court, we ask a controversial question. You, as the judge, get to pass judgment and decide for the entire cycling world what lives and what dies.
Okay.
We already know the saddle is the most important part of the bike fit, usually.
Mm-hmm.
But from this day forward, between the cockpit, the handlebars and stem together,
mm-hmm.
or crank length, the hot topic right now, which one's locked in and which one gets to be adjusted?
Damn it. That's messed up. Shoot. You know what? I'm gonna say the cockpit.
So the cockpit
can change. Yeah.
Crank lengths are locked in.
Yeah.
All right. Why?
Okay, because the crank arm length thing is a controversial topic, and I am a proponent of shorter cranks for most people, but I have already come across it where it doesn't actually always work. I would say that like of all the static parts on your bike, the cockpit is one of the parts that people have the most trouble with. I think you can kind of overcome the crank arms being maybe not always ideal versus like if your bars are way too far in front of you or they're way too wide or they're too short, like you're just going to have a really awful time. Like when the bars are too short, you usually experience a lot of like hand and shoulder pain because you're being compressed. If they're too wide, you're going to start experiencing some really bad back pain probably, and still some hand pain as well, and probably shoulder pain. So the crank arms, I think that being able to change the length is helpful for a lot of people, but I think that you can get away and get around like maybe them not being ideal versus like if that front end is not where it needs to be. not only are you going to probably hurt yourself, you're also affecting how the bike handles. So, like, I'd say that needs to be able to be changed.
All right, so 200 millimeter crank arms for everybody.
Yeah.
But you can have any cockpit you want.
God, that sounds awful.
Oh, man. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, man.